Her dreams of serving our country in counterterrorism and anti-trafficking came to a sudden halt. Welcome to Freedom Alive. Karolina Stancik has suffered 3 heart attacks, a mini stroke, emergency pacemaker surgery, neurological maladies, and other physical, mental, and emotional issues, not to mention countless battles with the Department of Defense. After getting the Moderna shots in March and April of 2021, her life will never be the same. And I'm sure we will never be the same after Karolina joins us to share her story. It's my privilege to again be joined by our co-host, Matt Staver. And Matt, so many emotions surface when I hear about Karolina's situation as a result of the COVID shot. We really must hear her story.
Karolina really puts a face on what happened during the Biden administration's mandate on the military that began in August of 2021. And that particular mandate really forced our military heroes that defend our freedom. These are the people who are willing to give their lives to defend our freedom, and they are heroes by any measure. And these individuals were forced against their religious convictions and against their personal choices to take these experimental COVID shots, whether it's Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson. They were forced against their will in most cases to get these shots, and they knew very early on that these shots were causing injury of a significant magnitude that they had never seen before in any other kind of rollout of any vaccination. And so many different emotions come from this particular interview, and I know it's going to impact our viewers as well as we share Karolina's story with all of our guests.
It's our honor to bring it to you. We cannot wait. But our Freedom Alert is next.
Today's epidemic of gender ideology requires state reforms. A new report from the America First Policy Institute confirms the United States is experiencing an epidemic of childhood gender confusion. It raises the alarm for states to enact legal protections to stop the abusive medical mutilation of children. More than 300,000 American teenagers struggle with gender confusion, which is double from previous research estimates made in 2022. This age group accounts for 20% of gender-confused children in the nation, despite representing only 8% of the general population. Radical gender ideology must be completely rooted out from the medical industry and from government schools in order to protect children. All states need to take a stand against this radical ideology and enact legislation that puts a stop to harming children with these barbaric medical procedures.
Up next, Matt's interview with Karolina Stancik.
I'm very honored to have a very special guest, Karolina Stancik, and I'm honored because you have given your life to serve and defend our freedom. That's what we do at Liberty Counsel, but you really do it by going to the very front lines and are willing literally to give the ultimate sacrifice, your life. Welcome to Freedom Alive, Karolina.
Thank you, Matt, for having me today.
You have an amazing story. You're a member of the military. We're a member of the military. Tell us about your story in terms of bringing us up to 2021, when, as a member of the United States military, the COVID mandate shot came out, and then you took the Moderna shot, and then you took a Moderna shot booster and had some serious consequences after that. But before we get to that, and before we get to the consequences, bring us up to, why is it that you wanted to go into the military? Why did you want to serve in the United States military?
I wanted to serve because I watched my grandfather. He served. He was in World War II, and I wanted to follow in his footsteps as someone who was a great leader in my life. I saw that that was an admirable trait, that he cared about his country, and instead of us complaining about the things that happen in our country, why not be part of the solution? And so I decided, I'm going to go into counterterrorism. We had an issue with that. I started to understand 9/11 for the first time when I was in middle school. And so I was like, that's going to be my route. I went to school for Homeland Security and criminal justice. And then I also decided I was going to enlist in the military.
So when did you join the military, and what branch of the military, and what was your goal?
I joined the U.S. Army National Guard in February of 2021, and my goal was to end up working at the Pentagon, work for Department of Defense, combat terrorism, anti-trafficking missions, things like that. And after that, everything just shifted.
So you're right in the middle of COVID when you're joining the United States Army. And what was it like after you joined? Was it part of a dream come true?
I would say it was surreal. I don't think it was a dream come true yet, but it was a moment of gratitude. And it was like, I have the opportunity to do this. I was healthy enough to get in there. I was beyond healthy at that point, and I was going to do everything I could to make sure that that was a career and that was the passion I was pursuing. So
you joined in February of 2021, and you then end up getting the COVID shot. Was that something that they were telling you needed to get? It was obviously in the military, you get a lot of shots, get a lot of vaccines. And that's something that they were telling you that you need to get as a member of the United States Army?
When I joined the military, I was working at the hospital at the time. The hospital was saying that they were going to start mandating the shots, and I said no to that. I was also in the military, just enlisted, and so they told us at my unit that, it's going to be available. They gave us 5 different options, and they said, regardless of these options, you're going to have to get it. They told us, get it now, you have time to recover in the comfort of your own home. Get it later, you're not guaranteed time to recover. Later meaning I was going to be in basic training.
So wait a minute, get it now and you have time to recover? That sounds a little odd to me, that they are assuming that something's going to happen once you get the COVID shot, that you have some time to recover from that COVID shot.
I was told that there was going to be some flu symptoms, some cold symptoms, maybe some COVID-19 symptoms, associated with it. They said not the first shot, second shot, you might experience some stuff. That was the extent of what I was told.
So you get the first shot, that's the Moderna shot. And then you get the second shot. When did you get the second Moderna shot?
They made me get that one right after. So I got the first one in March of 2021. They made me get the second one April of 2021.
So this was actually before the August 2021 mandate came out, where they literally required everybody. But obviously in your situation, even before that, they were putting a lot of pressure on you and other members of the military to get the COVID shot, especially a new enlistee. You didn't have any seniority. You're a new enlistee. They tell you to get the shot. You just trust the government, I assume, that it's safe and effective, even though you had some concerns?
I went into it with that mindset that if something, God forbid, happens to me, it shouldn't because I'm healthy, but God forbid something happens, that the military would be held responsible for it. I never anticipated what happened to me to actually happen. I wouldn't have expected that any day.
And what did happen after you had the second COVID shot?
So I had some cardiac issues where I was feeling palpitations, severely high heart rates.
How close in proximity to the shot did you have those cardiac?
I had cardiac issues within the first 12 hours of the first shot, and they still made me get the second shot.
So you had cardiac issues after the first shot, and they made you get a second shot anyway?
Correct.
And then what happened after the second shot?
After the second shot, you talk about symptoms on steroids, basically, and, breathing issues, cardiac issues, passing out. I felt like, I had my first fever in my whole life, but I also was having severe neuropathic pain. And so it felt like fire ants and a burning sensation from head to toe, just nonstop.
So what happened after that?
I progressively got sicker. I was having breathing issues that turned into asthma pretty quickly. So it went from bronchitis to asthma really quick. And then after that, I was like, something's really not right. I'm blacking out. My heart rate is super high. And I was having like a balloon sensation in my chest. And with that being said, I was like, I need to go get this checked.
So when you're blacking out, how does that happen? Are you just in a room, you black out, you fall down? What happens?
So the same way that people feel like when you say you stand up too quick, that's what's happening to me, but just happening. It's not that I'm standing or sitting or anything.
You just can't predict it.
I couldn't predict it. And sometimes it would be worse, but even putting my boots on, a simple task, I was blacking out.
Did you tell some of your supervisors? I'm sure you did, your commanders?
I did. I did tell, most of them knew about it. I had a first sergeant who knew about it. My commander knew about it. And the whole clinic, the medical clinic knew.
So, they see you a healthy person, they see that after the first shot, you have palpitations. After the second shot, you have a plethora of kinds of symptoms that are much more significant. And they're still telling people to get this COVID shot? I mean, you're a valuable member of the United States military. They're putting a lot of resources into you. And now what they've done to you is something that they can physically, visibly see happening. And they're still pressuring people to get the COVID shot.
The pressuring that they put on people, despite seeing what happened to me, was, I couldn't believe it. You know, I had friends in my unit who were contemplating suicide because they're like, I'm going to lose everything. And then they got out of the military based on suicidal ideations. But it's like, which one do you take?
Yeah, Karolina, we represented a lot of people in the military, and we know people that did commit suicide. Mm-hmm. One of them in December of 2021, just a few days before Christmas, took his life. Another husband and wife in the Army, the husband committed suicide because this was post-mandate, and what the pressure was on them was that they would get discharged, mm-hmm. And so many other things. So tell us a little bit about how you progressed, because obviously this is not the end of your physical symptoms. They got worse.
Right. So October 2021, I was diagnosed with a heart attack. Pretty much was dismissed. It was like, you know, you're really young, you're healthy, nothing really to do or see here. We can't do much. So they were like, here's some blood thinners, here's some pain meds, and I moved on. I was unable to obtain any cardiology care. My appointments were being scheduled and canceled by my leadership.
They would cancel your appointment with a cardiologist, even though you had a cardiac event?
Yes, and I was getting my pulmonary, so I had asthma on top of this, so I had cardiac issues and pulmonary issues, and those appointments were getting canceled as well.
Do you think that there was some effort by them to not really reveal what was going on with your situation because of the greater impact it would have on their agenda to vax people?
One, I think possibly the other side of it would be, you know, a lot of these people have never seen this, right? The lower echelons have not seen something like this. They haven't seen healthy people have heart attacks. It's not normal, but now it's becoming normal. And so I don't think I would want to, I don't think I could grasp that idea.
Yeah. So then this was not your first heart attack. You had other situations. Tell us about that.
February of 2022, I was now 22 years old, and I had a second heart attack. Still had not seen cardiology.
No cardiologist?
From October to February.
With a second heart attack?
That appointment 3 days later, canceled yet again.
After your second heart attack?
On a bogus lie.
What was the lie?
So the lie was I was out of state with a family emergency with my father. For everyone to understand, I don't have a dad. And I was in the state and just gotten out of the hospital.
So they made up something that was totally false.
Correct.
And then what happened after that?
After that, I was sent to Virginia to go do another training and get more medical care. I had to restart the whole entire process again to get medical care. So
despite the fact that now you had 2 heart attacks, they're not putting you on a disability status.
No.
They're putting you out there and doing training and new training in a new location.
Correct.
And then what happened after you went to Virginia?
I was discharged unlawfully in April 2022. I faced homelessness. I suffered more medical issues, and I moved to the state of Florida to be with family while I tried to navigate the medical side of things.
So what happened to your medical bills?
Well, at that time they were climbing, so I got a call, said you owe us $35,000. I got billed from time in active duty service. And then on top of that— You got
billed for, in other words, the military didn't pick up your bills?
Correct.
You're in the military getting medical treatment and the military is not picking up your medical?
Correct.
I mean, it just gets worse and worse. It's hard to imagine a situation like this.
So, I mean, my life was crashing in front of my own eyes.
Yeah, obviously,
and I was
can't imagine.
22 at the time, and so I'm like, I'm just trying to survive now. Now you're telling me I have bills to cover. So I had to start working because I'm like, I'm going to end up in collections, right? And so I start working, health goes on the back burner, and I'm like, okay, I got to finish my degree as well.
You really have no medical treatment, right?
Correct.
Because you don't have any money.
Correct. And insurance was not working with me. And so it was the first time, you know, July of 2022 is the first time I saw a cardiologist.
July of 2022. And
almost a whole year
first
later.
Heart attack was in October of 2021.
Correct.
And then what did the cardiologist say?
Nothing really to see here, nothing to do. She told my mom, your daughter's heart is healthy. Really not much we can do other than give her this medication, this medication, this medication.
So what else happened? Because I know you had some other issues and you ended up having a pacemaker as well. This continued to progress.
So fast forward to November of 2022, I had a mini stroke. And then I got some treatment for some time. Things got better. I ended up having a third heart attack in May of 23. At this point, I'm getting no medical coverage, and the Army is now calling me back like, hey, you need to come report. If you don't report, or if you don't show us that, like, you know, certain documents or turn things in as they are incomplete, we're going to take your medical retirement.
But
they had not even started the process for that.
But they discharged you.
Correct.
Now they want you back, and they say that if you don't come back right away, you're going to
lose everything.
Everything. So what happened?
I got in contact with a advocacy group, and I was able to get some sort of, you know, support. I got some attorneys, and we pretty much fought and fought and fought for me to be reinstated back on active duty so I could get care.
And you graduated from Liberty University then in, what, 2023?
Correct.
With a Bachelor of Arts in Criminal Justice and Homeland Security. And your dream really was to go into the military and do this kind of intelligence.
Do that for work.
For work, for your career, and defend our country. And you're now in the mid-20s with 3 heart attacks and all these other issues that you're facing as well. Yeah. And then eventually you had to get a pacemaker.
I did get a pacemaker. So in May of 2024, after fighting tooth and nail, this is my 5th cardiologist, he finally sits me down and goes, what happened? He's like, when did this start? And so I asked him, like, you know, do you want me to be honest? And he was like, yes. So I told him. He started rattling off all the, you know, things that he had seen with the COVID shot affecting his patients. And he was like, what can I do for you?
You know, it was an eye-opening event for all of us, because not only the military, we saw different kinds of situations like this where they were misrepresented. That's a polite way of saying they lied. Right. Over and over again on these situations, but also in the medical field where there was denial of reality and a lack of curiosity until you found this cardiologist who obviously had done some research and seen some examples of other patients that had cardiac events following these COVID shots. Right.
So yeah, he did the testing, he did the cardiac MRI, he got the implant loop recorder, so that was my first surgery. And within 3 days of receiving that, I was told your heart's stopping.
It's stopping?
Yeah, so I had, you know, pauses in my heartbeat for over 7 seconds at a time. But what does that cause is causes you to fall, black out. I fell down a whole flight of cement stairs, injured my spine because of it. So this whole time I'm being told, nothing to see, your heart's healthy, everything's fine. This cardiologist goes, this is not what I expected to see from all of this time.
Wow. So what did you do after that? You graduated from college now, you're back in the military, but then you end up getting the actual discharge on a medical discharge?
Right. I got medically retired in December of 2024. And, you know, I think what really prompted that was the pacemaker surgery.
So how's your health now, today?
Well, it's much better than it was a year ago. Let's just say that. It's not perfect. And, you know, every day things change. But I would say it's much better than where I expected it to be. And
you're still on the disability medical discharge. So is your medical treatment now being covered by the military?
For the most part. Okay. Not all of it, but for the most part.
Now, do you have to get that from a VA hospital?
No, so I'm, you know, fully retired from the military, so I get TRICARE for life. Okay. So I will get that, but I do have to pay out of pocket.
I know you had mentioned in your story that when you were at Liberty University, you graduated in 2023, it was one of the worst moments because you're graduating from school, you're in the military, and then out of the military, discharged unlawfully, and then battling with significant health issues. So how was that like? How was it on you emotionally through this process?
Emotionally, that was one of the darkest roads I had ever walked. It was one of the darkest places I had been. Suicide was definitely being considered at that time. I really felt like I didn't have anyone, and it felt like the weight of the world was literally sitting on my shoulders. And if I didn't do something with this, then I would fail myself and everyone else around me.
So do you have a case going on with the military, or is that issue resolved now with regards to your coverage?
That issue is mainly resolved. There's some medical stuff that they have not resolved. They have not paid me back for the things I paid out of pocket yet. But other than that, things are pretty much resolved.
Is there any hope from some of your colleagues that you know that are still in the military with the new change of the Secretary of Defense? Is there any significant changes that you see happening with the change of administration?
I haven't noticed a lot of change. I think there is some hope that maybe people were on the right side of history, that maybe we'll have advocates in office for us, that maybe we permeate into these offices. But I don't think there's a whole lot that we can really affect right now. It's going to take some time.
Well, especially for people like yourself that have had these injuries. Obviously, you can't compensate, no matter what it is, for that health loss. I think one of the things that need to be done is the exemptions, the legal immunity for vaccine makers that was put into law in 1986 needs to be repealed. The vaccine makers that made this, Moderna in your case, Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson or AstraZeneca, whatever it is, and whatever vaccine it is, this or some other vaccine, if it causes injury or death, they need to be held accountable. There's no other industry in the world where you can make a product, give it to somebody, in many cases force them to take it.
And label it as safe and effective.
Label it safe and effective, and then have no responsibility for the harm that it's caused you.
Right.
So what would you say to people that are, in the military now, or know somebody that's in the military, or somebody who's had vax injuries like yourself?
I would say keep fighting. That's the number one. Keep talking about your story. Tell people what your story is, because someone has to hear it. Someone's going to be opened up to the truth, and that's what needs to get out there, is the truth. Now,
you maintained your faith through all of this, but I know you came to very difficult, dark times that we can't even begin to imagine in the silence of your own private time, where the pressure was so overwhelming that you even considered taking your own life. I'm glad you didn't.
Thank you.
But in those, how'd you keep your faith in all of that?
I mean, I was blessed beyond measure with the people around me. And I would have to say that, like, the love and support I received despite what I was going through and despite how dark those moments got for me, that was more overwhelming, And just if someone's like, hey, let's go grab coffee, that would pick me up. Or if someone's like, hey, let's just have a conversation.
Which is really good advice no matter what, whether you're going through a vax injury like yourself or something else. Just a phone call, a touch on the shoulder, going out for coffee or something like that, just letting somebody know that you're there, you care. That brought you through those tough times.
I would say that, and obviously my faith in God.
Yeah.
It wasn't as personal until I went through these things, and I really had to rely on him and see the grace that he gave me throughout it, because beforehand I didn't understand it. And now it's just like, it's overwhelming.
We have worked with so many people like yourself. And it is amazing, the people that serve in the United States military. It's one thing for somebody to say they want to fight for our freedom. It's another thing to put on a uniform, be willing to take a bullet, and go out there and literally put your life on the line. And that's not an insignificant decision. That's a huge decision. And that's a decision that you made to serve our country because you love God, you love our country. And there's so many people like you. And there's so many people like you that have been harmed, injured, abused. Whether they got the COVID shot or not, they were being forced against their will. A government that they gave their life to defend, and they were betrayed. And while that chapter is somewhat closed, the book continues, and we need to reverse that, and we need to have justice. But I want to say thank you for putting your life on the line for me and for all of our viewers.
Thank you.
In your final moments, tell us what's on your heart.
I honestly think that other people need to know that you're not alone whatever you're going through, you're not alone. And there's someone that's listening, there's someone that cares, there's someone that will fight and advocate for you.
Well, Karolina, thank you for joining us on Freedom Alive. I know that you've gone through a difficult time in your life, and some of those days are maybe still ahead sometimes from time to time from the medical conditions that you have. But God preserved you and prepared you for this time. It's an amazing time to be alive in this nation and in this world. Yeah. And your voice is a voice that I think will echo through history. Yeah. And your situation, as difficult as it was to go through, I think will impact and has impacted so many people, not only in our generation, but in generations to come. And may, by God's grace, we never go down that road again. And by God's grace, your courage in just encouraging people to stand in the midst of, whether it's this or something else, where you're just so overwhelmed, you're even thinking about taking your own life, reach out to somebody. Yeah. If you're the one going through that, or if you know somebody, reach out to them.
That could save a life.
You're a living example of that. Mm-hmm. So thank you for being with us.
Matt, listening to Karolina's story and so many others that we've covered like it on Freedom Alive, it's just so easy to see why so many people are demanding accountability.
Well, when she describes her story about having these physical episodes that are obvious for a young person and very unusual for someone in good health, and they continued to press these shots anyway, and then they did what they did to her in terms of knowing that she had all these medical conditions, they sent her to another state to go through additional training. It's maddening. There is a need for accountability at all levels of the military, at all levels of our government. It wasn't just the military. It was obviously Anthony Fauci, who is one of those individuals. It was the NIH, it was the CDC, it was the FDA, it was the Department of Defense. All of those agencies and more were all part of this. HHS, all of these were part of it. But beyond the government people and agencies that need to be held accountable, the private sector needs to be held accountable too. And that's the medical professions, the hospitals, the other pharmaceutical companies, particularly pharmaceutical companies. I am very convinced that we need to repeal the 1986 law that gave pharmaceutical companies immunity from lawsuits. They need to be held accountable. These pharmaceutical companies need to be paying for these kinds of injuries, and Karolina is just the tip of the iceberg.
Your word during the interview of betrayal was so strong to me. It's our honor and our privilege to bring you episodes like this. We try to do it with each and every episode of Freedom Alive. In closing, remember Jeremiah 1, verse 19, which says, "They will fight against you, but will not overcome you. For I am with you and will rescue you, declares the Lord." Our freedom is a gift from our Creator. We must never forget that and always protect it. Join us here next time. You'll hear victories as well as ways you can stand up for your priceless freedom. Join us again for Freedom Alive.